Hey everyone, and welcome! Today, we're diving into a framework that helps answer a really big question. How can we tell the difference between a student who's just memorized facts and one who has achieved real, deep understanding?
I mean, this is the question that probably keeps every educator up at night, right? You see the test scores, you see the right answers, but you can't help but wonder, what's really going on in there? Is it sinking in? That's the challenge we're tackling. So first things first, let's talk about a challenge that I'm sure we've all seen firsthand, the limits of memorization. Exactly, you know that feeling. You've got one student who can list off dates and definitions perfectly, but another is making these amazing connections, analyzing ideas, and applying what they've learned in new ways. How do we tell the difference? And more importantly, how do we encourage more of that deeper learning? So what's the solution? Well, it turns out we need a totally new lens for looking at learning. And here it is. It's called the SOLO Taxonomy. Now that stands for Structure of the Observed Learning Outcome. And that word, structure, is the absolute key. This isn't about counting how many facts a student knows. It's about the quality and the structure of their understanding. We can thank John Biggs and Kevin Collis for this incredible tool. Way back in 1982, they set out to build a framework that went beyond just marking things right or wrong. They wanted a way to truly evaluate the quality of learning. Okay, now for the really cool part, let's get into the heart of the model, the 5 levels of understanding. The best way to picture this is like a staircase. Each step up represents a much more sophisticated way of thinking. So let's start climbing. And to make this really concrete, we're going to stick with one single question for all 5 levels. We're going to look at different student answers to this question right here, and you'll see exactly what each level of understanding looks like. All right, level 1. This is the pre-structural level. Think of this as ground zero. The student just hasn't grasped the concept at all. Their answer might be totally disconnected, irrelevant, or just plain wrong. See? I mean, sure, it might rain in the winter, but that has absolutely nothing to do with why we have seasons. The connection to the actual science just isn't there. Okay, let's take a step up. Level 2 is the unit structural level. Uni means one, and that's exactly what you get. The student has latched on to one single correct piece of information. It's a start, for sure, but it's just one piece of a much bigger puzzle. And this isn't wrong. Earth's movement is definitely part of the answer. But it's so vague. Which movement? How does that cause seasons? We're still just scratching the surface. On to the next level. Number 3 is the multi-structural level. Multi, of course, means many. So now the student knows several correct facts. You can think of it like a list of ingredients. They've got the flour, the sugar, the eggs, but they haven't actually mixed them together to bake the cake yet. So here we've got 2 correct facts, Earth's revolution and its tilt. Great, but the crucial link between them is totally missing. The student hasn't explained how these 2 things work together to create the seasons. And now for a big jolt. We've reached the relational level, and honestly, this is where the magic really starts to happen. This is the big leap from surface level learning to deep understanding. Here, the student isn't just listing facts, they're explaining the relationships between them. And this answer just says it all. You hear that cause and effect language? Because the Earth is tilted, as it revolves. Now the tilt and the revolution are connected to explain why we get different amounts of sunlight. Now that is a coherent, structured explanation. And finally, the top of the staircase. This is the extended abstract level. This is the pinnacle. At this stage, knowledge becomes flexible. The student can take the underlying principle and apply it to a completely new situation. This is what true mastery looks like. Just perfect. The student has generalized the concept. They've gone beyond just Earth and can now make a prediction about a totally hypothetical planet. They don't just know the fact, they understand the principle itself. So let's do a super quick recap. This table lays out the whole journey beautifully. We go from pre-structural with no real understanding to collecting basic surface level ideas at the uni and multi-structural levels, and then finally making that leap to deep and advanced understanding in the relational and extended abstract levels. It's such a clear progression.
Okay, so we've got these 5 levels, but the big question is, so what? Why does this actually matter for you and your students? Let's talk about how this helps us move from surface to deep learning. Well, it matters a ton because it gives us a clear roadmap. Using this structure, we can intentionally design lessons and tests that push students beyond just memorization. It's a tool that helps us build the critical and analytical thinking we all want to see. It's a game changer for everything from planning a 3rd grade science lesson to guiding a PhD student's research. Okay, theory is great, but let's get practical. How can you actually put SOLO to work? Let's look at some real-world ways to use this framework. First, a quick clarification. You might be thinking, wait, isn't this just like Bloom's taxonomy? And that's a great question. They're both incredibly useful, but they ask different things. Bloom's focuses on the verb. What kind of thinking is happening? Are they analyzing, evaluating? SOLO, on the other hand, focuses on the outcome, the quality and structure of the student's actual response. The 2 frameworks actually work together perfectly. And here's a super tangible way to use it. Don't just ask one big question. Instead, structure your questions to walk your students right up the SOLO ladder. You can start simple, with a definition. Then ask them to list the causes. That's multistructural. Then ask them to explain the relationship between those causes. And finally, challenge them to predict future implications. You're literally guiding them from surface to deep thinking. And that's the SOLO Taxonomy. It's so much more than just a model. It's a completely new lens for looking at learning. So the question I want to leave you with is this. How will you use this framework to see beyond what your students know and start assessing how well they truly understand?